Jason Aaron, Aaron Kuda, Cam Smith and Guru go higher, further, faster than ever as Carol Danvers of a dark and evil world fights against her oppressors to find freedom amongst the clouds. Jason Aaron introduces us to another of what he is calling the Pillars, this time being a Carol Danvers belonging to a Victorian era world where the Dark Phoenix rules and everything flying is considered a sin. Aaron does a fantastic job setting this world and its history up, and doing so in a quick and simple way, not getting bogged down in its intricacies of it all, and instead focusing on Carol's drive to find freedom in the skies and her never give up attitude in the face of overwhelming odds, and people who try and demand that she not do something, which, as we've seen time and time again, if you tell Captain Marvel not to do something, she's gonna go and do it. I've really been enjoying Aaron giving each of these new Avengers a whole issue to shine while building up to the massive war with Mephisto and the Masters of Evil coming in the final pages of this issue, but I really do hope that he isn't creating too many new iterations so that when we finally do get that event that brings them all together, they all just kind of get lost in the shuffle and don't really get a moment to shine in the spotlight outside of these issues. Aaron Kuder again gets to pretty much reinvent another well-known character and give his own spin and design to her world. I really did enjoy the Victorian era aesthetic which he gave to this world that this Carol is from, and while it's mostly in the background, we never really got to see any of it. I do appreciate the certain aspects, like all of it was covered in fog and it was all dark and dreary, very much like a Victorian era London. And then he breaks from that when we get to see the other Carols in the Carol Corps, and it's all bright and sunny and colourful with their red and yellow and blue costumes, and it's just fantastic. And even then, when he gets to design more Carols, we get some that we've seen before in the background of some stuff where we've seen the Carol Corps, but then we also get some pretty cool new ones like a Deathlock General Danvers, which was pretty cool to see. Avengers Forever issue 9 was another fantastic focus on a new multiversal variant of an Avenger, focusing on Carol Danvers and her drive for freedom in the skies while tying it to the larger all-out war plot Jason Aaron is quickly coming to the grand conclusion of. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10. Avengers Forever issue 9 finds a multiversal Carol Danvers taking out a group of Hydra soldiers and taking command of their blimp, as the voice of another Carol knows that these visions come to her at night, knowing that they aren't like dreams since those are make-believe and fantasies and never come true, but her visions are so real it hurts. She knows that she has seen herself living other lives, from flying pterodactyls to jets to even flying herself, figuring that she was meant to fly and be in the sky. Carol, however, finds herself trudging through the mud, chained to a giant bull, as some animal-headed beings call out blessings to the Dark Phoenix as they continued their pheasant shooting. Carol knows that nothing good is allowed to fly in the shadow of the Hellfire Castle, as she remembers her parents, not knowing who they were exactly, knowing that they were other lost souls suffering in the service of the Dark Phoenix, their queen who rules the skies, and the privilege of flying the skies is only reserved for her and her alone, with all others doing so committing a great blasphemy. So every Sunday the lords and ladies of the Hellfire Club gather to shoot the birds and other things out of the sky before eating their trophies. Carol is kicked into the mud as she gathers the kills, knowing that after days of eating and gorging themselves, the lords will then throw the rotting scraps down to them. Carol becomes angered, lashing out at the alligator man who beat her, beating him into the ground, but the other lords come to his aid, wrestling her off of him and beating her down before tossing her back into the muddy pit she calls her home. Carol reveals that she was given a ball and chain because a few years ago she committed the ultimate crime. She tried to fly, using a makeshift wingsuit she designed herself. While the suit worked, she was unfortunately shot down by some of the lords, spoiling the moment of freedom she chased and has chased ever since. Later that night, once everyone is asleep, Carol hoists the giant weighted ball onto her back, standing up with it and trying to jump again and again to try and fly, but she finds she isn't strong enough yet, collapsing into the mud, beginning to worry if the visions she's been seeing really are just dreams, since after all nothing is meant to fly, and that to fly is to fall. She continues to try as the next day the lords are out again hunting, calling for the Phoenix's blessings on their hunt. Carol is told to keep picking up the dead birds, but she soon comes across a small nest of leftover baby birds. She manages to smuggle them back into her pit, giving them her food as she tells them to be quiet, since if the lords hear them, they will kill her and the birds. Carol tries again to fly with the ball, as she teaches the birds her motto of higher, further, faster. She continues to leap, but to no avail, crashing back down into the mud. Later on, while she sleeps, Carol hears the baby birds again, waking up to find them flying off. Carol Carol panics, trying to stop them since it's dawn and someone will see them, and sure enough, some of the lords see the birds, calling them sinners as they call for the birds' deaths. Carol refuses to let them die, climbing up from the muddy pit and using the weighted ball as a weapon, slamming it down on a lord's head and killing him as she attacks the rest of them. Carol viciously assaults the men, watching the birds escape into the sky, knowing while she falls, at least she got to see her new friends making out like the Carols of her visions. One of the lords shoots Carol in the neck, but the bullet shatters her neck chain, freeing her from the ball. Carol takes off into the sky, finding no dream does the sky and clouds justice. She meets with the birds outside the city on a hill, knowing that she would come with them, but the mud still calls for her and she has some sinners to hunt. Carol returns to the city, burning it to the ground as she grabs one of the lords, congratulating him on becoming a sinner as she is flying him into the sky. She tosses him further into the sky, hoping that he enjoys it while it lasts. As the city and sinners burned, Carol wonders what to do next, thinking the only thing left for her to do is to go higher, further, faster. She leaps as high as her legs can carry her, finding nothing can stop her from soaring high. She suddenly slams into the side of a giant helicarrier filled with other variants of herself. The other Carols surround her, thinking her to be an enemy, but then they realize that she is just another Carol Danvers, helping her up and revealing that they were just looking for her, and it's always great when one of them makes it this far by herself. General Danvers tells the others to take Carol to her quarters and to settle her in since her training begins tomorrow. She tells Tracker to set them on a course for the next Earth since they have more Carols to find, as Carol knows that her visions were real, as she is welcomed officially into the Carol Corps, as Ghost Rider leads the Omni Carrier into the multiverse to prepare for war.